Welcome to Self-Discovery Media Network, formerly known as Self-Discovery Radio. Each week we bring you illuminating shows from those making a difference in the lives of others. They've taken their own journey. They're here to share their skills, their wisdom to help you on yours. You can see more about us at selfdiscoverymedia.com, and please listen to our wonderful collection of shows. Our next show is...
Good day, everyone, and welcome to Recovering the Whole of You. My name is Dr. Kitty Adley, physical therapist and owner of Handling Your Health, Wellness, and Rehab in Nassau, Bahamas. I am so happy to have as my guest today Dr. Lisa VanHoose, physical therapist, researcher extraordinaire. Welcome, Dr. VanHoose.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Adley. I appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. It is my pleasure. So who is Dr. Lisa VanHoose? Tell us about yourself.
Oh, wow. Well, I am going to start off with just saying that I am a human. So I firmly believe in just recognizing the humanity in everyone, even before you start to know the titles and everything else. Mm-hmm. But I am a mother. I have 4 adult children. I have 4.5 grandbabies. And I am located at the University of Central Arkansas. That's in Conway, Arkansas, where I am a member of the physical therapy practice. And I also run a research laboratory called the Cancer Rehabilitation and Wellness Laboratory, also known as the CREW. And then I also have a really exciting endeavor that we've been doing now for about a year that is called the Ujima Institute. So I am the founder and owner of the Ujima Institute. But I am also the wife of an amazing man named Kip VanHoose. So I have multiple hats, like probably most of your audience.
That's just the nutshell version, right? Good. So I want to put some attention on the research that you've done. Could you tell us a little bit more? You know, you have quite a few years of research underneath your belt, and you recently won an award. Well, last year you were given an award from I think it's the University of Kansas, KU, yes. Kansas University. Could you tell us more about that, please?
Yes. So originally, I have been a PT since about 1996, and I worked on my PhD at the University of Kansas Medical Center in the Diabetes Research Lab under the mentorship of Dr. Irina Smirnova and Dr. Elisa Stenobiddle. And my project at that time was looking at cardiovascular disease in a model of type 2 diabetes and the relationship between the cardiovascular system and the lymphatic system, and how you could leverage exercise to improve the structure and function of both of those systems. And so then I went on to kind of use that knowledge to look at cardiotoxicity and other side effects of cancer in humans, trying to do some risk profiling of why is it that certain cancer survivors have certain side effects, even though they had the same treatment. And a lot of it kind of comes back to those social determinants of health and how you handle inflammation. And recently, our laboratory has received a PCORI research contract. We just finished that activity where we actually went throughout the state of Arkansas talking to cancer survivors and their caregivers about what is it that causes distress? What is it that triggers your sympathetic nervous system and turns on that inflammation? And what is it that can be done in the state in regards to programs and education and maybe even possible research projects to look at, okay, how do we minimize distress? Because we know that cancer-related distress has a negative impact on health outcomes for cancer survivors. And yes, you are correct. Last year I was honored. I'm gonna try not to cry because it definitely was a surprise. I was honored to be nominated and awarded as the School of Health Professions Alumna of the Year. So early career. So I'm still honored. I'm still kind of in shock.
Well, you definitely earned it. I know I've had the good fortune of being your student as well as your mentee for the last, I think, 5 years, and I am honored for that experience. Your wealth of knowledge. And we both serve the oncology profession. I tell people I'm the baby in the profession. I just sit down and watch you guys talk and watch you work your mojo. But it's just so special, the work that, we're doing in this field, and you as a researcher bringing this information to us, because cancer survivors on the grand scheme of things are basically an underserved population. Like, you get cancer, you get the treatment, you get cured, okay, your numbers are low, go forth. But there's so much side effects, I don't want to say damage, latent long-term side effects that aren't being well addressed, that are significantly impacting quality of life and function. And we serve to fill that gap between the treatment and the function of the person. So thank you for all of the work that you do and that you continue to do. And I just can't wait to see the results of this new study that you're engaged in. And you go ahead.
Oh, no, I was listening.
Okay. One of the latent, the side effects that you spoke about was cardiotoxicity, heart health. And this is why I really wanted to talk to you about what I wanted to talk about today with you, heart health. February is Heart Health Month, and more specifically with a focus on women, because it's like the #1 killer of women worldwide. It's very high in certain populations, especially African Americans or people from African descent, but it's the #1 killer of women, and I don't think we're giving it enough attention. And so I know you've studied it in these special populations. Can you speak to it for the regular everyday woman that's probably not paying attention to her numbers, not paying attention to her body?
Oh, I definitely would be honored to kind of walk into that space, because yes, so heart disease is the #1 cause of death globally for all sexes, males and females. Okay. But then when you start looking at disparities, you definitely see that women are disproportionately affected by cardiovascular diseases, and that can be heart attacks, hypertension, stroke, all of those things related to the heart and the blood vessels. And there's a variety of factors associated with that, but I think you hit the nail on the head with the very first one, the fact that the data suggests that when you ask women about their personal risk for heart disease or cardiovascular diseases, they say, oh, it's only, about 20% of women actually think they're at risk. And that's part of the issue right there, is that we're not good at self-assessing our risk factors in regards to our behaviors, our environmental exposures. Women, we all got superwoman syndrome, right? So we what was it? I'm a woman, I'm gonna put on the dress, put on the makeup, bring home the bacon, make sure he feel like a man, we're gonna do it all, right? And the research is kind of saying now that we're killing ourselves trying to do it all. And it is that inflammation and the stress that is one of those things that is increasing the risk for women, along with, our unhealthy diets. Because when you're stressed and you're trying to do 15 things and you know that cooking at home is probably better, fruits and vegetables are better, but you're tired at the end of the day. And so we choose things that aren't the best for us. And I will be the first to admit the food industry has made it very attractive to pick those things. Other things is obesity. And I'm not saying that you gotta be a stick. That ain't what I'm saying, because I ain't a stick myself. Right, I'm far from a stick. I might be more like, a tree trunk. But I think it's really important for you to kind of know what is your cardiovascular fitness, right? So if you needed to run a mile, could you run a mile right now? And if you can't, then that's a problem. So I think, just kind of knowing, things about your eating habits, your body weight, your physical activity level. If you're the person when you go to the grocery store, you're trying to get the closest spot, then you're probably at higher risk for cardiovascular disease. The other thing is smoking. Smoking is the #1 modifiable risk factor for not just heart disease, but also lung cancer. So if you are someone that smokes, vapes, whatever you want to call it, we know that there are side effects related to lung cancer and also heart disease when we talk about, tobacco smoke and other types of smoking mechanisms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a lot. So we're talking about managing our stress, inflammation, our diet, including lots more fruits and vegetables in our diet, trying to keep our BMIs to what normal should be or average should be. You know, it's interesting that you spoke about smoking, because I think the issue for a lot of women is that they probably don't smoke, but their spouses, their family members, or their work environment exposes them to smoke. And it's, you know, it's a bit unfair. A lot of places are changing their work policies. I work with a few women in the hotels here, the casinos here, and patrons are still allowed to smoke. And these women are working in the casino, stuck at a table, serving the customer and inhaling that. And it's so unfair. And then maybe this is a conversation that we need to have with some of the insurance houses, that they should ask the employers, well, you know, you have to do due diligence and to protect your employees and take them away from the smoke exposure. There are a lot of facilities now that are stepping away from smoking indoors. They're giving you smoke rooms, or they're giving you, or telling you can't smoke inside. But that's a very, very important point. The other point that I want to just expand a little bit on too as well is the diet. And you spoke about diabetes. So especially for us in this region, diabetes and heart disease is running rampant. One, I think, is physical activity. I definitely know that. Lack of physical activity, they're not getting the 150 minutes in. The other one, so good management of stress. But the diet is so serious, because everybody's going for the quick food, the packaged food, the processed foods. And we're seeing that increase steadily. It's more and more on the shelf. It's more and more available. And we're not cooking at home anymore. We don't have the time, you know. And so what tips would you give a woman, a mother, a head of a household, of how she can sort of counteract or safeguard herself from falling into those traps of not cooking, lack of exercise, not manage stress management? What tips can you give us?
Oh, good question. So I'm going to rewind, and I just want to touch back on that you gave a great scenario about how that often we are in environments where we are exposed to secondhand smoke. Mm-hmm. And, you know, where can we as an employee start having conversations about that? Because it comes down to being an economic conversation, right? Because that business is trying to make their customers happy. But I think we also get to have this conversation about, hey, because of this exposure, it's increasing my risk of having these chronic diseases.
Right.
It's going to end up costing you more money, right? Because my insurance is coming through you, and that's going to raise your risk pool. And so what we've seen some businesses do is, you know, you'll go in and they'll have smoking sections and non-smoking sections. And then those employees that smoke, that's who works in that smoking section, right? Mm-hmm. Because we're going to put like people with like people, because mm-hmm. you've already made that decision to have that risk. But I think there is a way to have those conversations with your HR and your management about how can we do this and actually, you know, lower risk for those that want it. Now, in regards to these conversations about, you know, what is it that women can do to decrease their risk factor? The data is pretty strong on the factor that several African-American, you know, Blacks, regardless of where you are living at globally, tend to have a sensitivity to salt. Mm-hmm. And we just, some of us have genetic mutations that just make us more sensitive to salt. And so we have hypertension that is related to that sensitivity. So that's another reason why you don't want the packaged foods, right? Because for them to be able to have that long shelf life, they need that salt. They need that salt, sugar, and fat to be able to maintain, to be able to sit in the freezer or on the shelf. So as much as you can kind of stay away from prepackaged foods, the better. And I think for me, because I'll be the first to admit, I'm about 60 to 80 pounds overweight. And so I'm really aggressively trying to get at this. But my schedule is crazy. So I'm going to be honest with your audience. I'm knee deep in the struggle right with you. But what I find best for me is it wasn't an issue of cooking. it was my mindset about cooking, right? Because I'm from the South. And so when I cook a meal, I want to cook a meat and a couple of vegetables and there needs to be some bread and there needs to be a dessert, because when I lay out food, food is my love language. So it hurts my feelings when I got to give you a sandwich, because I'm like, ooh, I sucked as a server, right? And so I had to get over that. I had to have a conversation with my husband about that, about, okay, are we okay with doing just a soup or a chili? Or maybe can we do a sandwich with the salad? And he was like, girl, yeah, I just want to eat, right? So I think some of that about, you know, that burden that we feel about meal prep comes from our psyche, because we want to be like our mamas and our grandmas, but we also have to remember that our time burdens are different now.
Right.
And so we have to be okay with that. And so that may mean a salad with maybe some chicken or a soup, and that's totally okay. As long as your family and your significant other ate today, you good. You golden. The other thing is physical activity, because I think most people know that the guidelines kind of say 150 minutes a week, which ultimately breaks down to about 30 minutes. And so then the first thing you say is, okay, where am I going to find 30 minutes at? Right? You like, I might have flipped my underwear inside out because I ain't even had time to do laundry. So we're going to find 30 minutes for, for exercise. But I will tell you that what the data kind of suggests is that if you are someone that is deconditioned or you haven't been exercising a lot, even if you started off with 10 minutes, 10 minutes of exercise in someone who hasn't been exercising has similar effects. So if you could just say, okay, I'm just going to do 10 minutes. So 10 minutes is actually 5 commercial breaks. So while you watching your 30 minutes or whatever, there's going to be 5 commercial breaks. For each of those commercial breaks, just get up and move. You will have your 10 minutes in. And if you can do that repeatedly for 21 days, you will notice that you miss it. And then you just start increasing your time. But I think the biggest thing is honor your body. So whatever you can get up and do with this body, you need to honor that and tell the body thank you for that, right? Because just kind of think about your mindset, keep it simple, try to get in at least 10 minutes. And then once you can get in 10 minutes, try to get in, 2 of those 10-minute sessions and then 3 of those 10-minute sessions. But meet yourself where you're at and be okay with that.
Great. Great. So I'll add some tips for myself. When we talk about cooking and making sure you have, well-balanced meals, to cook every day is a bit of a challenge. So the days that I'm in the kitchen is probably a Sunday when I'm cooking a big family meal. And what I try and do is cook about 2 or 3 pots at the same time that can be modified to be like a different meal, right? And then the other thing is that I'm 50% Bahamian and 50% Grenadian, so you can't feed me the same food every day back to back to back. I admire the people that can eat like the big chicken and mixed veg every day of the week. I can't do that. I can give you one day
yes,
days in the week, but you can't give me the same thing back to back. So what I've done is like, we'll bake a chicken, or we'll do some meat sauce and I cook my meat sauce with sauteed kale and spinach to get the greens in as well. I would do a stir fry with veggies, cook some quinoa or some brown rice. But what I really have gotten into now is the soups in the slow cooker. So like you could just put your split peas or whatever peas in the slow cooker with a bit of turkey meat, onions, close the pot, wake up in the morning, you have a hot soup for the day. So these are tips or tricks that I've found for cooking. And then for the physical activity point, you mentioned it earlier with the person that wants to park right next to the building. If you're in a well-lit area or well-security protected area, park a little farther, walk a little more towards the door. Try and use stairs instead of the elevators. And just walk a little extra around the food store. I mean, every step counts, right? Every step counts.
Every
Those
step
are the tips
counts.
that we can leave with people that are struggling. And I mean, we'd be happy to provide more as well. One of the things too that I'd like for you to address is, you know, we always talk about knowing the numbers. A lot of women, you ask them, what's your blood pressure? Well, I think it's okay. What's okay? Well, the doctor said it was okay. What was the number? I don't know. Same thing with blood glucose levels. What's your number? When last were you checked? I don't know. You know, and so please speak to how important that is for us when it comes to our overall health, but more specifically health, heart health.
Oh, that's huge. Because the thing that we're noticing is, and for those of y'all that have been kind of watching the numbers, you're noticing that the normal, what we consider normal, is actually continuing to drop. Mm-hmm. Because we understand that we need to identify hypertension as early as possible. You know, issues with your cholesterol, issues with your blood glucose. So normal, 120/80, right? Mm-hmm. That's normal. That's where we're trying to be. If you're above that, then you are pre-hypertensive. And so you have now doubled, in some cases even tripled your risk for cardiovascular disease. In regards to heart rate, people will say anywhere between 60 to 100 is fairly normal for a resting heart rate. But what I normally tell women is that when your resting heart rate is above 85, that's your body saying, wait a minute, I'm really deconditioned. Right. So if we're just sitting around watching TV and you know, check your heart rate, look at your Fitbit, and it's above 85 when you're sitting, you're really putting yourself at high risk for cardiovascular events in the future. And then blood glucose, we're trying to keep everybody under 100. And that's the other thing that we have to pay attention to, because as Black people, we have the highest world in regards to hypertension. But the issue with hypertension is that some of the medicines that we take related to the hypertension also increase our risk for diabetes.
Okay, could I ask you just to repeat what you said?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying how that
the Black people, you were saying the number.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So Black people have the highest prevalence of hypertension of any other subgroup in the world.
Okay.
And what I was saying there was that in many of the medications that we are risk for diabetes.
Okay.
Are you able to hear me, Dr. Kitty?
My internet's playing hide go seek with me. But you're saying the medication puts us at risk for diabetes.
Yes, and particularly diuretics. But the message that I want your audience to hear is not don't take your diuretics. That's not what I said. Mm-hmm. What I said is you need to figure out ways to reduce your hypertension so you can come off of those meds. And one of the easiest things to do is to decrease your body weight by 7 to 10%. So if you're somebody that weighs 200 pounds and really you need to weigh 130, 140, if you can drop 20 pounds, then it puts you on a pathway to maybe come off of some of that hypertensive antihypertensive medications. Okay. But I did not say don't take your diuretics, but I did say we know that there is a relationship between diuretics and diabetes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, so you talked about the disparities, and I know that's one of the, what should I say, the motivating factors for you to form the Ujima Institute. So tell us a little bit more about the Institute.
Awesome. So the Institute was an opportunity to address what we call social decay. And social decay is not just the decay that you might see in the buildings and infrastructures in certain communities, but also just that sense of community, right? Because one of the things that we have going on here in the US is, you know, now that people have privilege, and that includes all people, we're seeing that people are kind of segregating themselves based on income. And so then we're leaving certain communities with no diversity in income. And with that, because of over policing and those kind of things, there's not a space for people to come together and talk about how to solve, you know, the complex problems. And so the Ujima Institute is an opportunity to bring people together online, virtually, to have those conversations, to talk about complex issues like education, access to healthcare, getting high quality practitioners into communities that are underserved. And so we have 3 arms. The first arm is called the Her Village, where basically we feel that healthy women lead to healthy communities. And so if we can create spaces where women can nurture other women, then ultimately that's going to help communities. Then our second village is called the Heal Village. And so with the Heal Village, our focus there is bringing practitioners into underserved areas, and also bringing education to those practitioners. Because normally when you think about it, if you want to get a particular education, you can go to the big city and get it. But if you need to go somewhere rural or maybe to an island that's not quite as populated, it's a little bit harder. So our second mission is to get that information to the people that need it. And then our third mission is to have community driven and directed research. So studying the problems that the community says is important, because often in academia, we come up with questions that the community is like, don't nobody care about that. So those are kind of the 3 arms of the Ujima Institute, but Ujima is a Swahili word that stands for collective responsibility, that concept that your problems are my problems and together we can solve them.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And so since we're talking about women and heart health, let's explore the Her Village a little bit more today.
So the Her Village is a great opportunity. So we have a Facebook group, and it's a closed group because we wanted a place, and you know, people use the terms like a safe place or a brave place, but really we wanted a place where you could shine your light, not with a lamp on it, because you know, lampshades are masked, but we wanted you to be able to take that lampshade off and just shine your light and be authentic. And so it's a place where every day we try to post something either motivational, something about women that maybe is a piece of trivia. We also have different speakers come on and kind of talk about what's going on in their lives. We're getting ready to start a book club. We're going to be reading and discussing, right, the Michelle Obama Becoming book. And we're also super excited to kind of talk about the fact that in 2020, we're going to be hosting a Her Retreat. So it's going to be 3 days. It's going to be a 3-day retreat, and the cost is all inclusive. So it'll provide 4 nights of lodging, all your meals. We're going to have a private chef. We're going to have a variety of speakers talking about different elements of wellness and helping women kind of create a self-care plan that they can go back and use. And after the Her Retreat, we're actually going to break into teams to just kind of check in on each other, continue to love each other over the next.
Okay, we were right with you until you said we're going to break into teams. And what are we doing when we break into teams?
Yes, so when we break into teams, on Sunday, which will be the last day of the retreat, we're all going to finish up with our vision boards, our goal statements. You're actually going to write a letter to yourself that kind of says where you want to be a year from now. But those teams are going to check in with each other on a monthly basis, just kind of continue to love up on each other, nurture each other, hold each other accountable to the fact that yes, you are your sister's keeper, but your first sister is yourself. right? I love Eckhart Tolle, who kind of says that there's a reason why we talk about God as being a Trinity, because we as humans are also kind of that way when you think about your soul, your body, and your mind.
Right.
So think about that fact that you as a human, you've probably got 2 other sisters within yourself, right? Because we all got that one voice that's like, girl, I don't even know why you did that, right? And then we got that other voice that's like, you should love up on yourself a little bit, right? So we need to nurture those sister voices within ourselves. And so those groups are going to kind of help make sure that we're all on track doing that.
Great, great. Well, I am very excited because I'm a part of this team, and just our planning has helped so much with growth and changing perspective for the better, and I think this is going to be, I know it's going to be a life-changing experience for many women, including us as team leaders. And I wish there were more opportunities like this for women, because we talk about the stress level and the lack of information. And so I'm really encouraging anybody who's listening, if you can create something like this in your area, where you create that safe space or that guarded space where women can come together and be held, be fed, be nurtured, be educated, be supported, and just be. That would be my plea to you as we end Heart Health Month this year, 2019. And that's my simple plea. So Dr. Lisa, as we wrap up, what message would you like to leave with our listening audience?
I would just like to remind them all that you are enough in your current place. You are enough, right? Because your body has met the task that needed to be done today. Does that mean that, yes, you can be better? Yes. But I think sometimes we are so stuck in comparing ourselves, especially like we're having this conversation about the risk factors related to heart disease. And that may make some of us go, well, I just got too many, so I might as well not do anything. And I'm like, well, think about if your body did that to you, right? So I would just say, just meet your body where it's at, and it has gotten up today and has done a task for you. So now it's a moment for you to do a task for it.
Thank you so much for those pearls of wisdom. Thank you so much for your time. This will not be the last time you're on, because you're, like I said, you're a wealth of knowledge, and your passion for the profession, your passion for women's health, for closing the gaps that exist in healthcare and socially and in the community. I know we have so much more to learn and share. So thank you again, and good night to everybody. Again, Dr. Kitty Adley, Handling Your Health, Nassau, Bahamas and beyond. Reach out to us. Please feel free to leave your comments, any questions, and we will definitely follow it up. Have a great day, everybody.
And thank you so much, Dr. Kitty. I always learn so much from you. So thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
We hope that you enjoyed the show. To hear more of these wonderful shows on selfdiscoverymedia.com, just look up our podcast genre list. You will see many shows archives there ready for listening. Don't forget to share these wonderful shows. And if you wish to be a guest or a host, or you have an organization that needs to be highlighted, contact us at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com. Bye for now.